Are you sick and tired of feeling sick and tired? Are you over being so fatigued that you don't have energy for your kids, for your partner, for yourself, for your friends? Are you overwhelmed with everyday life and not sure why? Do you feel like that everybody else seems to be able to cope and handle, but for some reason you can't? Well, to cover these mystery complex cases, I've brought together some of the most brilliant minds in the alternative health space. We'll be talking everything from psychedelics to mental health, mindfulness, spiritual health, physical health. If it has to do with living your best life, I'm going to have a guest on covering that topic. Hey there, I'm Heather Gray, a certified functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and certified bioenergetic practitioner, and I am the Renegade Health Boss. Thank you for joining us, and I hope you will enjoy this show. Yay! Welcome, Pavel, to the show. So excited to have you on today.
Thank you so much. I'm excited as well.
I know, even though it's 6 o'clock in the morning in Thailand, where he's joining us from, that's crazy.
Yes, it's the beauty or the blessing and the curse of traveling so much. Like on one hand, you get to see beautiful places and meet new people, but you also get to meet new time zones and and when you work out of US, it's really more difficult than I would like it to be. And then in half an hour you watch kids will start running in, and so that's been a new challenge for me this summer.
Oh, how fun. How many times is this your first time in Thailand?
I've actually been here a lot. I come here once a year for darkroom. So every year I spend 10 days in complete darkness with no food, and it's my like yearly reset. But this last time I was here, we discovered this magical island called Kopanang, and it's like a healing island. It's all on a crystal quartz, and literally the in 10-mile radius you have 25 yoga studios. So anything you can ever imagine, from breath work, sound healing, journeys, it's all in like one block. So we came here to like have this beautiful balance in creating content as well as doing well for ourselves.
That's absolutely incredible. I am like that. I have to see that someday. We recently just got back from Dave Asprey's Biohacking Conference, and that's where I met you and had a special invite to your 4 hour breath work, meditation, ecstatic dance, like completely mind-blowing, life-blowing, heart-opening experience. Like it was absolutely incredible, and I'm so blessed that I got to be there. So I know you're just such a fascinating person. You've got so many different facets that we could dive into. But I would like, for my audience to learn a little bit about you and kind of why you got into this line of work. Because, most of us alternative practitioners, ones that are kind of thinking outside the box, usually there's kind of a pain to purpose story. And I'm just always curious as to, how did you get started?
Well, it's exactly that. Years of pain, years of suffering, depression, questioning, and living in what I call this little ping pong game, where you have highs and lows and good days and bad days. And it's interesting. So I'm born and raised in Czech Republic up until about the age of 15, and then I was pursuing a professional cycling career, which eventually I was able to get into. And in that same time, I started my first business. So I've always been an entrepreneur at heart, and an athlete at mind, so to speak. And for many years, I was pursuing that drive for the wrong reasons, and I felt this deep lack of purpose. And it wasn't until I was 18 or 19 years old that I completely my health just crashed. I got a chronic fatigue, Epstein-Barr. I was literally uh, I woke up in a hospital after a Czech national cycling race, and essentially, I had a choice. I was like, I either can keep on pushing my body or I'm going to have to quit. And so I had to quit cycling at about 20 years old. Even though I made it to professional cycling career, it was this like big crush, for ego and for not being able to do all the things I wanted to. And so then I put all of that endurance into business. For about 6 years. I was opening Orange Theory fitness locations all over the country, and essentially in moved to US and start doing a lot of business. And I got the same place again. I had this obsession of scaling and growing, and one thing that I did right during that time, I committed myself that every 3 months I'm gonna do something ridiculous, something that will push my boundaries and limits. And essentially, it was this deep voice inside of me telling me that there is more to life. This is not it. We are not just these rats that are meant to live in a box, that are, following the rules, and that's it. And even though I checklist all of the boxes of the American dream, I was still so unhappy. And so, was this voice inside of me. And so it started off, I did things like samurai camp in Japan. I did Zen master training with the monks. I spent a month with the gurus in India. I also went for a month in this psychic village in Brazil. And so what I start doing is I start learning from anybody that said, I have an answer to, healthy mind or healthy emotions or how to heal physical body, which is how I got to biohacking, was through healing, myself through the personal health journey. And so I followed it. I learned from them, but it wasn't until about 8 years ago when I went to the darkroom for the first time that the light bulb finally, turned on. And essentially, it wasn't until day 7. So imagine 7 days of just brutal fight with your monkey brain. And it wasn't even the food. The food part is the easy part. It was this emotional and mental attachment to all the things and foods and that we create for ourselves. And so I went into this pure state of bliss. And for the first time in my life, I have touched myself at the core for who I am, not for what I'm being told, not for what I'm not for what I'm trying to be, so to speak. And it got so clear. Like, first of all, what came to me was this beautiful lesson of my passion. My whole life, I've loved music, but I've been just putting it on the back burner. One day when I have time, I'll get to it.
I was
So
wondering where the DJ piece was going to come into this, because you are a badass DJ and your band is unbelievable. That woman has got a voice that can like catapult you to space and back, and the rest of them are just so ridiculously talented. So I was wondering, I'm like, where does the music come in?
yeah, no, so I've been always, musician at heart. My grandfather was a musician all life long. But again, and then I started with dancing. So early years, I danced for about 5 years, anything from ballroom and all the way to, the hip hop and dance, like any style. But I left it, right? Because business was first and money was first and family was first. So that was the first part. The second part that it taught me was my purpose, which is to give all of this knowledge out to other people and make it simple, digestible, and accessible. Because what I find, even in biohacking, there's so many beautiful tools, so many amazing things you can learn, but it's a lot of it. And a lot of times it's not appropriate for us at the given moment. So how do we tap into the inner source that actually knows what's the best for us? But we can't hear this because we're so damn busy in our lives. So, pausing and really feeling that's when I start having this idea of events and retreats and immersive experiences. So we can make it fun, we can bring people together, but also make it effective. And the third part was, how do I make means with this? I call it a legacy. And that was, how can I live in service and also be able to be abundant and have a great lifestyle? And that lesson was the hardest one, because the minute I walked out of there, I started selling pretty much everything. And I went totally the other side, which is, by the way, where the Noah Aeon came from. Noah means movement. Aeon is all or none. And it symbolizes duality, that I was just hopping in my whole life. And essentially, our whole mission is to come back into unity, harmony, peace, health, that we are here to experience. We didn't come here to experience the gutter or the pain, the suffering, maybe for a little bit to learn from it, but we don't have to learn these lessons from it. We can learn from love. We can learn from joy. And so first, I basically lost everything. After making millions of dollars, everything was stripped away, got divorced, all the relationships fall away that weren't of my highest good in my life. And it kind of brought me into this path today where we get to touch, so many people around the world and fully living in service.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. And what a beautiful container that you built. Like I've gotten, to do a lot of these types of experiences and to feel so held and safe. And I don't know, it was just a completely different thing than I've ever experienced before in my life. And it was absolutely amazing. And it was funny because I wasn't even sure if it was like a thing, because I was talking to people at the conference and I'm like, oh yeah, they're like, what are you doing today? I'm like, oh, I'm getting ready to go to this thing. And they all looked at me like I was crazy. Nobody had heard about it. And I was like, shit, is this really happening? And I even told my Uber driver, I'm like, go around the block once because I'm not sure what it is that I'm showing up for. But then once I saw people getting smudged, as they were walking in the door, I'm like, okay, I'm in the right spot. And thank God I took a chance, because it was an absolutely life-changing experience. And I just so appreciate what you guys are doing in the world. So with that, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to dive deeper into from the darkness to the light, what 50 days of darkness has taught you. We're going to go into a little bit of an experiential thing that you're going to show us. And then I want to talk about some of the biohacking tools, one I see on your shirt, and then one you were wearing as we were getting on. And so I'm just curious as about what these things are. So stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. You're going to want to hear everything that this lovely man has to say when we come back. So stay tuned.
When you're facing painful symptoms, a diagnosis of chronic Lyme, or an autoimmune disease, it can be overwhelming to navigate. You already know mainstream medicine doesn't have the tools to support you, and often even alternative medicine can become a maze of options without sustained results. Modern living puts significant stress on our systems. To counter this, we need a holistic approach, utilizing the latest technology and guided by physicians with decades of clinical experience. This is biological medicine. The Biomed Center in Scottsdale, Arizona is one of the most comprehensive clinics in the world, incorporating the latest diagnostics available, such as full-body MRIs, computer regulation thermography, heart rate variability, toxin screenings, and along with hormone and gut testing, they achieve the broadest look at all systems of the body. Customized protocols are developed by physicians who have treated thousands of patients in chronic disease by optimizing their biological performance. Save yourself years of suffering and searching with a visit to the Biomed Center, Scottsdale. The future of medicine is here.
Hydrate the delicious way with LMNT, delicious electrolyte drink. When you're in the heat of the summer, you're sweating, or whether you have a regular detox practice, right, like using the sauna, making sure you get the right amount of electrolytes daily is absolutely crucial. These little guys are your spark plugs for your energy system in your body and your brain. So if you've got brain fog, if you've got low energy, instead of reaching for a cup of coffee, next time reach for an LMNT, and they come in so many amazing flavors. My favorite is grapefruit salt, and my second favorite is watermelon salt, probably followed by chocolate caramel salt, which I think is a seasonal flavor. But check it out. Get yours today. LMNT. Hydrate deliciously. Stay salty. Yay, welcome back. And thank you for telling me it was Czech Republic. Although I would not have guessed that as a Czech accent. Like, I've heard a lot of Czech accents and I couldn't figure you out for the longest time. I'm like listening and I'm like, where's his accent coming from?
Yeah, well, I think it's because I've lived so many different places.
Is that what it is?
So I think I picked up a little bit from all the different places.
I was like,
And
I
so
cannot pin you down.
Yep.
So tell us, a little bit about more of that going into the darkness, because I mean, just you even talking about it makes every cell in my body scream, no. Like, yeah, you talk about monkey mind, holy shit. But yeah, so like what, like how did you even find, I've heard of silent retreats, that type of stuff, but where did the darkness come from?
No, absolutely. So, even though I grew up in Czech, which by the way, it's like 95% atheist because it was right post-communist era where none of this was allowed and none of this was cool and everything was weird when it comes to meditation, breath work, all of these mystical parts. But one thing that was right, my mother has always been really spiritual, and she actually made us grow up with shaman from a young age, and taught us about energy and taught us about, I remember I was like 12 years old going into yoga sessions with my mom, and I was the only, boy there. And now I would appreciate it, but before it was like really pushing my limits, right? To the extent of, what is this, mom? But it laid this foundation for me to be open and receptive when I was ready, when I needed it in life. And so what's interesting, I've learned about darkroom from Drumvalo Melchizedek, that is this incredible teacher, does so many different things. And I went into his retreat in Hawaii, and essentially the day 4, they talked about breatharians. They talk about pranic living and people in darkness. And I was so intrigued by it, but the same way afraid of it, because I was like, what is this, right? Most people are afraid of darkness. And it's funny because that's where I found my light, right? Ironic how it works. But it took me about 5 years to get out of the wait list with this amazing woman. Her name is Jas Muhin, and she's become my mentor. I became ambassador of peace under her program. I went into the darkroom, and she teaches pure love. Like it's somebody that's realized in this form, that brings the feminine, the understanding of that importance in this life, the balance of that. And essentially the 10 days of darkness is initiation into how you can live solely and be nourished by prana as your source. So whenever people think that we're fasting there, when you're fasting, you're losing weight. But when you are eating all the time from the infinite love, which is inside you, then you access this other source of energy that's always available, and which was so far out there even at that time for me, like that this is even possible. But again, my open heart and open mind was intrigued, and I wanted to see if this is possible. And I'll tell you, so after the first darkroom, it took me 10 days or maybe even more, like almost 2 weeks, to reintroduce food again, because I wasn't hungry. And I could not understand, like, how is this possible? And so when you convert, when you change the way you spend time from the busy, beta brainwaves, the overly thinking, analyzing mind, which we're chronically as a society living in, and you move it into that alpha, theta, through different variety of, breathing, meditations, and really just silence and solitude, all of a sudden you are able to hear all of this wisdom that's always been there. You're able to feel this other pulsation and vibration that's guiding our life. And so that was really that pivotal moment that, wow, like this stuff is possible. And it just get me even deeper into, believing this. And it became my medicine. So basically, I've now done it 5 times. So every year I do 10 days. And it's, now I love it. I when you understand how to turn off the monkey brain, and when you also understand that when in life do you get to unhook. And by the way, that's one of the biggest lessons that it taught me, is process of unhooking, because we're constantly doing, living somebody else's life, living outside of ourselves. And if you can take away something from today's, session, it is this simple process. And so what I've learned, I brought it into a simple cycles or modules where once a day, the first hour of the day, I spend just with myself. You don't go on a cell phone. You don't do anything external. You keep that energy internal, and you can visualize the day in front of you. You can do some meditation, exercise, whatever makes your heart smile, so to speak, is an amazing way to start a day, focusing on your dreams. The second part of this is once per week, I take full day off, and I detox. So I don't do anything digitally, physically. I take a day, and especially the first half of the day, just on my own, to reassess where was I last week and to project into the next week. Then once a month, I take 4 days completely off in the same way. And I look at it as a greater cycle. I go backwards, where was I? What would I do different? And I go forwards, what changes I want to see, what goals I want to have. And once a year, I spend 10 days in darkness, and it's usually 10 to 15 days off. But as you can see, it's a cyclical process that avoids burnouts, that avoids you to continue being obsessed by the mind that constantly has an agenda, right? Our mind doesn't want to turn off, because if you turn off your mind, mind thinks that it's died. And so what's important, right, in this process is that if we constantly live outside of us, we're living somebody else's life. Now, what that taught me is when you pause, when you're able to hear, then we have these four spiritual gifts that all of us have. And that's the inner hearing, inner feeling, inner seeing, and your inner knowing or intuition that communicates with this highest aspect of you that is already realized, that we are here to embody into the physical form. Now, when those voices and senses start getting so much more prominent, then what happened to me, I didn't have to make 360 changes anymore. It was just minor adjustments within those cycles. And what's funny is the cycle really came and was inspired by my wife and by her cycle, because what we've noticed is that we live in this beautiful balance. Whenever she's high, I am low. Whenever I'm low, she's high. And so we dance like this to be able to support that feminine and masculine in a perfect way. And so I call this the process of unhooking, which was one of the biggest lessons that was so simple again, but yet when do we take the time to follow on that?
You know, the simplest stuff is usually where it's at. And it sucks because it's not sexy. It's not, the late, it's, not a quick fix usually either. It's not, the latest and greatest thing. And it's the thing that I have the hardest time getting my clients to do, to understand, as like, again, I've got so much anxiety and I got this going on. I'm like, great. Did you put your feet in the ground today for 20 minutes? Did you get your movement in? Did you do your meditation and your gratitude journal? No, I'm not giving you another supplement then, right? Like, you're missing the whole point of what I'm trying to teach you. And I myself have been guilty of that. I just told my husband this morning, I tapped into a place when I was at that conference, starting with you guys that first night and then into the rest of the conference using a couple of the different machines and stuff and tapping into alpha, and just felt magical. Up until this morning, I'm like, I can feel it going away. But actually just being in this space with you right here now, I could feel me tapping back into that. And so it's beautiful how, yes, when you get intentional and when you take the time to drop in, how easily you can get back into those things. So I'd love for you to show us, do you have a little exercise or something that you can demonstrate that, folks can get a little something from it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think the simplest one, and also the one that you can use profoundly on everyday basis, as frequently as you can remember to come back to this. And I call it the instant presence. It's got 3 parts to it. And essentially the first part is just simple breath. So no matter where you are listening from right now, connect into a nasal extended breathing where you inhale through your nose for about 6 seconds and you exhale out your nose for about 6 seconds. Now you hold this breath as frequently as you can, because it's been verified by science that it increases your heart rate variability, it lowers down your stress, and it brings you more into that coherent state. Now, what's also important, when we lose the sight of the breath, this is when we go into the state of reaction or the fight or flight, as many of us notice. And it could be as simple as, a negative email comes in, somebody crosses in front of you in a car. And so every situation gives you feedback, right? To either react, be in neutrality, or proact. I made up this word because when you proact towards things, you're not coming from that place of agitation, right? And whatever agitates us, that's where the lessons are. The second part to this tool, and I like to always ask this question, where am I? Where am I? Because especially during the day, if you have a long day, you're on the phone, on a computer, back-to-back emails, you're always outside. So first thing, I just take a quick pause, maybe just even 1 minute, right? You go back to the breathing, you ask yourself, where am I? And if you are in the future, in the past, or anywhere outside of yourself, you got to call the energy back in. And so it could be as simple as I am calling back all of my energy from all the people, all the places, whatever I've left it. And you can even imagine it as if you were unhooking or discharging, right? That level of energy you're putting out. So that way, what is you comes back to you. The other part to this is you can send the energy back. And same thing, I am sending back all of the energy from all the people, all the places that have left it on me. So whenever somebody thinks of you, right, we're constantly exchanging energy with the world, with others. So this is the way you can claim you. Now, the other part to this is body awareness. Because we're constantly, our awareness either rests in the center of our brain or somewhere outside of us, you want to bring it all back into your body. So as you're breathing for 6 in, you're breathing for 6 out. Imagine these champagne-like bubbles bubbling up around your body. So that way, when you're inhaling, you draw in through the bubbles and you exhale out through these bubbles. That way, you're not just inhaling through your nose, you're actually inhaling and exhaling through the entirety of your body. Now, relaxing into it is a key, because what happens when somebody crosses in front of you? You know, you tense up, you lose the sight of your breath, and you want to go forward, right? Yeah, it's like the agitation. Yes. And so with this one, right, the next time something like this happens, you can stay aware of your breath in your body fully, draw the energy from all of your cells, all of the pores of your skin. So that way you're inward, right? You're in that beautiful temple that you've been given for this life. And the third part to this instant presence is, can you pay attention to the stillness and silence underneath the noise? So I always like to say, you could be in the middle of music festival, airplane, anywhere that it's really busy. And it's actually the biggest contrast where you can find this tool really powerful. But no matter where you are, no matter how busy it is, you can still be aware of your breath, body awareness, and stillness and silence underneath the noise. So this tool has changed my life, because when you are aware and you come into the conscious mind instead of being on the autopilot of the unconscious mind, which is limited, right? It fuels from the past, projects into the future. You can then bypass and start recreating situations anew, which, as the situations are coming in, right? Every single cycle, whatever it's mental, emotional, relational, at the work, all of it is bringing you the same lessons. It doesn't matter where you're doing it, who you're doing it with, like, you will learn your lessons no matter what, because that's why we came here to Earth, is to learn, to exchange those gifts, and then embody it in the physical form. And so this just enlightens all of you into the greatest expression.
That's absolutely incredible. And then, so how long do you typically have somebody, suggest to stay in there with that breath?
So, I mean, I would say as frequently as you can remember, because what happens is, at first, right, you're going to go outwards again. But just the first layer to change is awareness. And so I teach this 4-step process that we did through the breath work. And you can apply this to anything. You first wake up, whatever it's physical health issues, mental health issues, or anything that's just coming at any point of time, you bring the awareness. Awareness is the key. That happens through breath, body awareness, and also, listening to the stillness and silence. So that way you are more enlightened and prompt to what's coming. The second part is you clean up, you get rid of whatever that is coming. So that way it doesn't keep on coming back, because any lessons, they just need to be brought up to the surface first. And you got to re-see them, re-feel them, these emotions, because they're otherwise buckled in, right? We either buckle them even further, or we can allow them to come up. The third part of this is powering up. This is when you go into offense, and this is when you bring the new lesson. So you bring, let's say, if you thought that you were ugly, right? A lot of people don't think of their bodies as this beautiful, temple, or if we're unhappy with our weight, or if we're unhappy with constant state of jealousy, right? Very negative emotion. We got to bring it to the surface. We got to release it through breath, through surrender, even sometimes journaling, right? Or writing it down is really powerful. And then the third part is you rewrite the new emotions, the new thoughts that you want to have about yourself, about another. And then the fourth part is resting up. That's the integration, where you again take a quick pause. And when I say quick pause, it could be even 3 seconds. You take a 3 seconds between the next call, between the next time you pick up your phone, right? You take just a few pauses. So that way there's more and more pauses in between the doing, and you can start being more and more often. And the fourth step is also the process of unhooking. So when you start following these beautiful day, week, month blocks, you will not experience burnout, and you will always feel, your brain will feel, your brain needs a reward system and goal setting, right? So if you give goals, you give reward system, then it makes you feel like I am at purpose. Like I feel like I'm going and moving towards something. And I think that's where a lot of people lose it in life, is that they think that they keep on doing the same thing over again and they don't know how to get out of it. But that's because the monkey brain wants you to be agitated, wants you to be in there. It's these ego tactics that it has to survive. But this is why breath work is so powerful, because if you did, for example, just few deep rounds of breath and you just hold it and pause it, anything that you can do to shift up that brainwave, that focus, will instantly bring you back into who you truly are, that peaceful, magical presence.
Absolutely. 110%. So we're almost out of time. I think we're a few minutes over, but I still would love to learn what was the glasses thing that you were wearing? Are they still around? Can you show us?
Yes. So it's funny. When you think about our company, I literally build it around the healing modalities, everything that we're doing. So if you think about Noah Aeon, we've got the digital stuff like courses and on-demand library for people anywhere around the world. We then do events. We do over 100 events a year all across the world with tens of thousands of people. And this is the calling I've had, is we got to come back together. If we're not unified, we are zombies, literally fighting against each other. Like, there is no bigger purpose for me than to unify us back. And even if it's one person at a time, we're doing something, different. And then the third part of our stuff is, how do we use technology and all of these tools in the advancement of it? And so, for example, light is huge. A lot of people, badmouth blue light, but we actually need blue light the first thing in the morning to wake up, to start our circadian rhythm. So whenever I travel, especially across different time zones, I literally put these on the first 20 minutes when I land in a new country, and it instantly can convert me back into the time zone, and I don't experience jet lag. I have a whole protocol that jet lag is a myth. It's only, if we let that affect us. Now, the other part is I have a red light device, which is for your brain and gut. It's right there, but too far to show. And I combine it with methylene blue because same thing, we need red light from the sun. We don't get to be exposed enough. And all of our artificial lights from computers and phones are damming that light, if we use that term. And so that's really important. I've also brought in something called this visor, which is the light therapy. And that brings you instantly into present moment. And again, it's been verified by science since 30s. Light therapy has been around, but it's never been applied to one-on-one basis. So we're so excited that we have all of these technologies that we combine with breath, we combine with meditations. So that way, again, how do we get around the mind in the quickest, most effective way? Technology, light, vibration, sound, they're all part of it.
I think it's hilarious that we have to biohack our way out of our mind, right? Because really, us is what gets in our own way the majority of the time, right? And so how funny that we've got these ways now to biohack, out of that. And I totally agree with what you say. You got to lay those foundations down first. Biohacking are awesome tools, but it doesn't, don't pass go, don't collect $200. They don't supersede getting back into nature. They don't supersede getting back into community, eating proper food, getting the right amount of sleep, right? That type of thing. So thank you for bringing that up in the beginning. Thank you for your time today. Especially with your traveling, and I know you've got a family. I've met your kids and your wife, and they're all incredible. And I'm just so blessed to, like I said, have gotten to spend time with you and your wonderful group and everything that you're doing in this world. So just thank you for everything. I really appreciate you. How can people find you and learn more about all these different modalities that you spoke about?
Yeah, so thank you so much for seeing us, and thank you so much for what you're doing, because I think it's so important and crucial in today's world to create this hub of education, because that creates inspiration, that gives people motivation, and that's what makes up the results. So what you're doing is incredible and so important. And where people can find us, so our website is noaaeon.com, noaaeon.com. And then Noah Aeon Official for any of our social media. And essentially, we can offer a free on-demand library. So if anybody wants to get on a journey, I'll be happy to, maybe we can add it to the show notes. And that way, we've got over 80 hours worth of recording from home, anything from 3-minute resets all the way to 2 hours. So if you ever wonder, what's the right tool for me today, this will help, solve it. And also, if anybody else has biohacking tools, we're on BrainTab, we're on Aura, we're on many different platforms and all of these tools where we produce content and we work with the technology to bring the consciousness to it.
That's incredible. Thank you so much again for everything that you do. And thanks for joining us today. Everybody else, make sure to have a healthy day. Stay tuned.
Thank you so much.
And as always, if you were inspired by anything that you heard on today's show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. That's the only way that we help change people's lives and get this information out into the world so that change can begin one person at a time, the way that it did with me and changed my life so many years ago. Make sure too, right, if you really want to start changing your life, it starts with your diet. It starts with what's on the end of your fork. And if you want to start making changes, go to my website, www.renegadehealthboss, RENEGADE, health, HEALTHBOSS.com, and download your free ebook, your free cooking guide, Real Cooking to Real Life. And in there, you'll also find links to the videos. Don't just learn what to eat, but why, right? Don't just learn how to cook, but the reasonings behind why I use some of the tools that I do, the toxins. You've got to lower your toxic burden, and we can do that in the kitchen and with what you eat. So make sure that you pick up that free resource. It's amazing. And while we're at it, we got to do a little disclaimer. Anything that you hear on this show is for entertainment value only. You cannot hold Heather Gray, the Lyme Boss, Discovering Health LLC, or Renegade Health Boss liable for any damages that may have occurred while you have tried something that you've heard on the show. This show also contains affiliate sponsorship and paid advertising, just a heads up. But to also know that no advertising gets on here without my approval first. It's usually products that I have tried and have my stamp of approval on it. So never fear when it comes to that. But yes, cannot hold me liable. Do not, this is for educational purposes only. Please make sure that you talk to your doctor before making any medical changes. And God bless. Stay tuned.